the front line will ultimately determine where the lines in the map are drawn at the end of the day, and will determine to a very large extent, that plus the economic war will determine how this actually goes. Things like human suffering and international law notwithstanding. So the latest is there's been a further advance by the Ukrainian forces. So Lehman and there has been taken, surrounded and then taken, and the Russians evacuated that in some haste back towards Crimea, and the war goes on. Now, the point I want to make here is there's very little information coming out, reliable information coming out of this conflict zone, very little, and we're having to piece together what we think's happening from scraps and from sources which are often heavily biased in one direction or another. To me, it seems that there's been so far 3 phases to this war. The initial one, where it's an attempt by Russia to smash in and cause a collapse in the Ukrainian state, and that didn't come off. The phase 2 was a much more steady, focused advance in the parts of that Russia really needed strategically. That was very successful and very rapid. There was a Ukrainian response to throw huge numbers of reserves into the front line to stem that advance. That cost them a lot of lives, but was ultimately successful. Stage 3 came where training and weapons coming in from the West was such that the Ukrainians actually, to my surprise, got to a position where they were able to launch successful offensive operations. That's been going on for now maybe a month or more. The Russian response is to call up another 300,000 men. Stage 4 is going to be a winter war with all these additional Russian troops. If I was the Ukrainians, I wouldn't be wanting stage 4. I would be wanting to call a halt to this and to take Putin up in that offer of negotiations. Unfortunately, I don't think that's going to happen.
Yeah, David, I would just add that the statistics of the casualty is the thing. Obviously, we in the West are denied truth about Ukrainian casualties, but all of the evidence coming in from the battlefield is that the Ukrainian casualties are horrific and increasing, because we're now down to relatively small units of men without air cover or proper artillery cover advancing, in these attacks on the Russians. A figure of 65,000 Ukrainian killed has been circulating. I believe there's some truth in that figure, but I wouldn't be surprised if it's not much higher. And that figure is for kills. That's not for killed and wounded. And of course, what is the West doing, prolonging this bloodshed?
Indeed, right. We need to move on. So if you like what the UK column does, you would like to support us, please head over to community.ukcolumn.org. There are options to help us out there, or you can pick something up at the UK column shop. But please do share material that you find on the various platforms. And just a quick reminder of the event taking place on Saturday, this coming Saturday in London, the Free Assange Human Chain. The effort to surround Parliament with people. I think, Brian, everybody needs to be getting out for this in the same way that they did against lockdown, for example.
Yeah, because if it's not done, then we know what happens, and that is more free speech is going to disappear. Also, just pop this up on screen. Ian R. Crane, we have not forgotten all of the excellent work by Ian R. Crane. And of course, a major part of his life was standing up to expose and challenge the environmental disaster of fracking. That is now rearing its ugly head again. And so we're going to encourage people who've got an interest in the fracking agenda, and in particular, stopping the mad destruction that it is. We need those fracking people to stand up and be counted again. And of course, ultimately, we need somebody with Ian R. Crane's standing in order to help drive through more common sense, I would say, to stop the fracking agenda. So if you're interested in the subject, watch out for others who are speaking out. And of course, there's a need for people to come together to produce some momentum to an anti-fracking stance.
Where does that take us?
Well, I think